right. And yeah, so just a tiny bit about me. I did get introduced to this group by Janice Honeycutt. I actually previously worked at RS21, if any of you are familiar with the data visualization consultancy that's based in Albuquerque, New Mexico. I started there several years ago. Like I said, data analytics and visualization consultancy, working as a project manager and then headed up our healthcare portfolio at the company. Helping to take the organization from 1 million to upwards of 13 million in revenue in 3 years. And have since moved on to work at Scaled Consulting, where I help lots of small businesses do the exact same thing. And my focus at Scaled is a kind of full service sales consultancy, but my focus is on the social media component. So that's what we're going to talk about today. And like I said, please interrupt with any questions at any point. I welcome the interruptions. All right, so like we said, I won't dwell on this, but buying behaviors have changed and we need to modernize how we sell our products and services. I don't think I need to elaborate too much on this. I think any one of us could list a number of ways that our lives in the world look different today than they did even just a year ago today. But obviously, as our kind of patterns and behaviors change, we have to adapt and adjust how we've historically or always done some component of our sales and outreach so that we can really keep up, and not just keep up, but get ahead of the trends. We all know that millennials are making more and more of the buying and purchasing decisions for organizations today. And this is just reflective or indicative of one massive trend that's taking place. And something that millennials are increasingly saying is that they don't want to interact with the salesperson in a B2B buying process. Sounds like, and I don't know the size of all of your companies, obviously, but maybe you have a sales team, maybe you don't. If you don't have a sales team, I venture to guess that the reason that you attract new clients is because of your passion and commitment to the business. People see your dedication to helping them and they are drawn to it. And I think that the value of our social media platforms is that we can essentially do that same thing that you do one-on-one with the clients or prospects that you're meeting with at a massive scale, connecting you to a global network of buyers. And that really is a huge opportunity right now. Is not only in some ways our competition is getting more fierce for services. People can buy financial advising services from someone anywhere in the country, maybe. Whereas in the past, it felt like we really needed to be able to sit down face to face and meet over this. That's just one example. But it's also affording you a lot more potential customers and clients. People are becoming more acclimated to meeting like this on Zoom, and everybody has their camera on and knows that will be expected, and we can really start to build relationships virtually in these meetings like Zoom, but also through, like I said, reaching a broader audience through our social media platforms. One of the ways, or a couple of the ways that we can do this is to, or address, this specific trend here that people aren't wanting to engage with the salesperson. They don't want to pick up their phone if they don't know what the number is that's calling them. They aren't going to open or click on a link in a cold email from someone that they've never heard of before, is to help people self-service the information that they're looking for. More than ever, buyers, customers, clients, they want to be able to go research. I know I need a financial advisor. I want to go read about what it is I need. I want to be an educated, informed buyer. And so by providing that content, by providing that expertise, knowledge, information free of charge, it helps to position you as the expert in your field. And then, I'm reading your content. I feel like I've come to know you because you're sharing information about your business, what you believe in through your social media channels. And then when I am ready to make a buying decision, I will likely come to you first. And so that is really the power of using social media strategies in a very effective way. You want to focus first and foremost on making it easy for people to know what you believe and what you value, and the value that you can bring to the table. So like I said, I want to kind of really jump in and talk through some real specific examples here. So I'm going to spend just a minute. There are kind of three core components of a LinkedIn strategy. And what they are to post content, engage with content, and connect or curate your audience. The kind of foundational piece of this, and I'm just going to spend 1 second talking about this. Actually, does anyone want to volunteer for me to pull up their profile? We're not going to like pull it apart or anything. It's just to talk through some of the main components. It's more fun that way. Kelly?
Sure, you can use mine.
It's more fun to do it if we see ourselves up there. Okay, so some of the main components of your profile are obviously your photo and headline here. And the most important thing when you think about what photo you select is that you can clearly see your face and it's bright. It doesn't have to be in a suit and tie. It doesn't have to be super professional. In fact, I think we're moving in a direction where people will have slightly less formal, and by that I mean like business casual, not like a Facebook photo, right? Not something of you, I don't know what, but so just the fact that it's bright and clear is the most important thing when you think about selecting a photo there. Your cover photo, you can do a couple of different things with. You can do what Kelly did, which is, well, what I assume Kelly did, which is a picture of a place that means something to her or that she feels connected to. There's a story here. If I didn't know Kelly, I could maybe ask her where this was. It might be an easy in for me to start a conversation with her. You can also use it to, really double down on your brand for your company or yourself. I've seen a lot of people actually kind of edit one where they have their name and email address or phone number or however they want people to get in contact with them kind of front and center right here. Obviously, there are other ways to access that information, but you can really kind of like double down on your personal brand or your professional brand. And then your headline. And this is a really big opportunity right here, because when you send connection requests, which we're going to talk a little bit more about in one moment, you want this information here to, of course, be reflective of what it is you do, but really with an emphasis on how it is that you help people. So it's like, I would say the number one opportunity here is to say something like, I don't know, Kelly, like what is Stanhope Consulting? Like, what is your kind of specialty or area of expertise?
It's really organizational development. So, I mean, people, good people relationships.
Okay, so Kelly might say something. It's honestly, I heard a lot of you do your kind of little like one
elevator quips.
Yeah, like it wasn't even an elevator pitch. It was just like one sentence, like, and I could see like the Dill Consulting one kind of stood out to me. At Dill Consulting, we help, I don't remember it verbatim, but like, we help people.
Your business is in a pickle, call Dill.
There you go. If your business is in a pickle, call Dill. Like having something a little fun, a little unique is really great here. You can also like powering talent and workforce decisions with data. So like kind of an action word that tells how you help someone is really powerful here. The idea is that you want to make it easy for people to understand, like I said, the value that you can provide to them. Because when I come and read Kelly's profile or anyone's profile, I'm not really that interested in, all the awards Kelly has won and like her like 4-prong approach to great consulting. And I'm reading it through the lens of like, how can this person help me? Like, how is this person relevant to my situation? So you want to make that abundantly clear to people. Like, don't make them guess. Like, don't make me guess that Stanhope Consulting can help me with my organizational development. Put it front and center, make it really easy for people to know and understand that. Like I said, I'm not trying to pick on you or anyone, Kelly. I just think the examples are more poignant when we have like someone we know and as an example. So then your about section is like, again, this is another opportunity to tell people how you help them. Make it about them, not about you. And I want to show, I know we had at least one person in financial consulting here. I want to show one of my favorite about sections I've maybe ever read. And it's this woman, Anna, who works at Northwestern Mutual. And she uses her about section to first and foremost tell me who she helps. So I know right away within that first sentence if what I'm reading here is relevant to me or if I can just move on, right? Like I see that she helps high achieving people under 40. And so I'm like, okay, that is relevant to me. And then she goes on to explain like how she understands, like what she understands about those people or why she is best suited to help those people. And she, you know, she really takes it one step further just to kind of get into this like emotional component of like, I get it. You've emerged from the ramen noodle years, right? Like something kind of fun that helps me know like, okay, Anna can help me more than anyone else can because she understands me, right? So you want to make people know that what you have to provide is relevant to them and know that you understand the value that or demonstrate that you understand where they're at. And then of course she goes on to talk about, you know, her process a little bit and a couple of other things, but it's very conversational in nature. So that's one example. I'll show you one other example of someone's that I kind of like in a very different field. This is Joe, and he helps people with their social media content. So Joe does, you know, something similar to what I do. And what he does is he makes it clear again that, you know, he's here to help people who want to improve their LinkedIn content. But what he does that I really like is he puts these like free resources front and center. So he's providing value before, like the second I go to his profile, it's like, oh, Joe is showing up to help me out. Like Joe's here to help me. And so he's not asking me for anything. He doesn't even know I'm looking at this, but like he wants to help. And so it just instantly establishes trust and credibility. So I know historically, you know, LinkedIn, we kind of, like we said, has been like this online resume, but we have an opportunity to really, well, we don't have an opportunity, whether we like it or not, it's going to happen. It is happening. But we have an opportunity to really like push that trend forward, to get ahead of it, and to use it to position ourselves to show it's like your storefront, right? For your company is your LinkedIn page. But the thing that people don't totally get about LinkedIn yet, I think, is that, you know, ideally you have a company page and a personal page. People will always engage with your personal page over your company page because people want to talk to real people. They don't want to feel like they're talking to a robot. So show up as your authentic self, show and position yourself as someone who can help and provide value, and focus on creating, you know, structuring your profile in a way that tells people how you can help them. But after all of that, if you're going to spend a couple of hours working on your LinkedIn or your social media presence in the next couple of weeks, don't focus on any of the things I just said. If you are only going to spend a couple of hours doing this, focus on creating posts, because the number of times that someone will come to your profile relative, like, you know, some people will come to your profile and visit it, sure. But the way that you can really stand out and get in front of people, stay top of mind to for your prospects, is to show up here. I don't go click, you know, I have 1,000 connections or whatever. I don't go click on all of their profiles every single day. But what I do every single day is come to this feed, and people who show up in this feed are more likely to get profile views, are more likely to get me to engage with their content, are more likely to get me to see their company name and drive traffic to their website, their profile page, whatever it is. So, you know, the reason I say it like that is just because the idea is that, you know, if you're only going to spend a couple of hours, do it on this, like do it here, because this is where you'll show up. This is where you'll get the most traction. And then if you do start producing content consistently, you're going to want to update your profile, because you're going to start getting a lot of traffic to your profile, and you're going to be like, shoot, I really need to update that. So I'm going to pause real quick before I jump into like, what the heck do you post on LinkedIn, and just see if there are any questions right now.
I have a question.
Yeah.
The About section, do you think of that as being different than the About section on my website?
A little bit, because I do think that you want to provide some like you don't want to just be a billboard for your company. Like you're putting a face to your company's brand. So of course you, in some ways it will be reflective of some of the similar information about how you help people on your company website. But I would also add some personal, slightly more personal elements to it. Sorry, I'm just gonna close my window so that you all don't have to listen to that. Okay. Yeah, so I would, a couple of things. I would write it in first person. I wouldn't say like we help HR leaders. I would say I help HR leaders, because you are speaking from the voice of you. And everyone knows you don't do it all alone. It's not about, you don't have to give credit to everyone on your team. We all know you don't do it alone. So I would focus on first person voice. I would focus on conversational. I obviously haven't seen your website, so I don't know like how much of this is present on your website. But yeah, I would say like add some of those elements from your website in terms of how you help people. But then maybe, another thing that I think that people do really well sometimes is they add at the end, like, I like backcountry skiing in my free time, and, I'm passionate about helping, people, like I'm passionate about helping people who have fallen on hard times and lost their homes, or something kind of personal that just shows just a little twinge of like who you are outside of work. Again, a lot of what that does is help people reach out to you. Like if I wanted to connect with you, Priscilla, like if I am only reading like about what your company does, it might be a little harder for me to like find something to like have a human connection with you about. So if you just put a couple little things like that, it can make it a lot easier for me to be like, oh, I tried cross country skiing one time. Like it was so hard. I can't believe like you do that every weekend,
Thank you.
Awesome. All right. Okay. So what the heck do I post on LinkedIn? There are, like, I'm going to take you through a few different kind of approaches. The number one thing that you don't want to do, and I'm going to do a little bit of a case study from a client that we worked with in the past, MZ, which they help with, like, they have people data, right? So they help people make decisions about hiring and like location and stuff like that. And so what the MZ team used to do, they've always been very active on LinkedIn. But what they used to do is every single post that they posted was about MZ. It was like, MZ this, MZ that. Here's this cool graph that comes from MZ's dashboard. Here's this, that's actually not one, but here's this other graph that comes from our dashboard. If you buy our dashboard, you can get this cool graph. And so it's very promotional. It makes people just kind of like scroll on by because they're like, this person doesn't care about me or my problems. Like they're just focused on them, their product. Like all they want to do is talk about me, 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 me. So a different approach to doing this that is focused on adding value first is to put, let's say your company's marketing team does produce a good article that has some value added information in it. A way that you could share that information like more directly with your LinkedIn audience is like this. So this is taken, pretty much directly from a blog article that this company's marketing team did. And in the past, what Sam would have done, and Sam would tell you this, is that he would have copied the link into his thing and it would have showed up as like a big picture of, here's the 4 reasons why, blah, 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 blah. And he wouldn't have put any information in the body. He would have just expected people to click off onto that blog article. The problem is, I don't know if that's relevant to me or not, right? Like, again, you're asking me to do the work of figuring out if the content you're sharing is relevant to me and useful to me, rather than putting it front and center, putting it right where I'm already at. I'm already in LinkedIn. I'm already here. So just give me the information. Like, don't make me jump through hoops to get it. Like, and then if this information is useful and relevant to me, Sam has very thoughtfully included a link to the article down below so that I can learn more. And people will do that. If they are genuinely interested in what you have to share, not only will they click on this link, they'll go Google it and like they'll figure out how to find you if they want to, right? We all like know how to do like a Google search. So the idea is that you're just providing value without really expecting for anything in return. You're not asking for anything. You're not asking people to click off onto another website. You're not asking people to put their email address in. You're not asking for their time. You're just putting something front and center where they're already at. And if it's relevant to them, they can go learn more. So, you know, this post is about, you know, like the fact that the unemployment is high, but also like job participation is low. Well, whatever. Anyways, so he shares 4 reasons why unemployment is high and also the number of job openings are high. So people are not employed, but also there are lots of job openings. So what's going on? Like why are those things true? And so he shares some reasons why, and then he shares a couple of tips for employers who are struggling to recruit workers right now, you know, ways that they can be more effective at that. So this is a great value added post, and for the right person, you know, this is providing valuable information. Another cool way that that you could present this same information, right? Again, this is an analysis that this company did, and they're wanting to share the information. But another strategy to share that information is to do something like this. So Christian takes a different approach. He says, wages are going up, unemployment is also going up. I don't get it. Like, to my talent acquisition, recruiting, and HR professionals, this is his target demographic, like this is his target audience. These are the people that buy products from MZ. To the people on the ground in these fields, help me. What is going on? And the reason I really like this approach is because, you know, first and foremost, MZ put out a great report. I'm sure it's wonderful, but it's not all inclusive of every possible thing going on. And there's a ton of value to be crowdsourced from his network. And the cool thing about this approach is that it's positioning his customers that he's trying to reach as the experts. He's letting them come in and be the heroes by providing the useful or valuable insights. He got a ton of engagement and set 3 or more meetings from this because these people feel valued and heard. They feel like their expertise, their opinion, their insights matter, and they feel more connected to Christian than him just telling him what it is that he thinks. So I really like this strategy or approach, again, for sharing content that is directly reflective of what your company does. Does that make sense? I'm going to show 2 other approaches to the kinds of content that you might want to consider sharing. But does anyone have questions about the types of content that you can share and how to share it about what your company does?
Kristen, Mackenzie, that's very, very helpful. In fact, I'm going to change what I was planning to do tomorrow. So thank you.
Awesome. Yeah, and it does, you know, one of the places that I derive, I would say, a majority of my content from are questions from either current customers or during sales meetings. If someone asks you a question in a meeting, it's likely that a lot of other people have that question too, obviously. And so I often will use those questions as the kind of inspiration for a post. In general, I try to write them, like, I think the best tip I can give in terms of how to like write really valuable content is to really clearly, like at the top of your page where you're writing it, like say who your audience is. And when I say who your audience is, a lot of times I don't mean like, don't write, you know, this post is for talent acquisition, recruiting, and HR professionals. I mean, right, this post is for Susan, who's an HR professional at this company, and write it really specifically for one person. And then you can go back through and like scrub any like overly specific details. But what happens when you write for a specific person is that you tend to write in a more conversational manner. And you tend to focus like really on what that person needs to hear, more so than if you generically try to write for HR professionals. So I do that all the time. I'll be like, you know, Priscilla at this meeting today, like asked this question. She does this at this company. Like, Priscilla, my advice for you is blah, 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 blah. Another tip is a lot of times, like, I'll write out a post, and what you want to do, like, so, you know, when you see a post on here, you only see the first couple of lines. And what you want to do is, like, a lot of times I'll write out like a whole post, right? And usually the key insight or valuable piece of information in that post, because we tend to write kind of linearly, will be like 2/3 of the way down. So like the main takeaway or main thing you want people to know or learn from this post is often towards the end if you've written a post in a linear format. What I usually do is just like copy that piece that's towards the end and put it at the very top. Again, the goal is to get someone to click down, and you're not going to do that unless you're putting the information that's like the key fact, the key learning, the key insight, put it first. If people are interested in it, then you tell like the kind of the backstory of like, you know, this is how I learned this, or this is how I know this, but put that key point first. We tend to not recommend starting with a question. Like I said, I'll start with a question from the day, but I'll delete the question. Like, leading with a question is not the most like enticing literary tactic. So you want to kind of focus on, again, that key insight, key learning, key point. Okay, so two other things to focus on. So that what I was just talking about is content that is directly related to what your business does, you know, what value it is that you provide. But there are a couple of other things that you should also consider posting on LinkedIn. Another thing that you should might consider posting on LinkedIn is, well, I got rid of it. Something that's not directly about your company or business. So, you know, this data analytics company, again, MZ, they believe in using data for decision making, right? They believe that data is powerful. They believe that data can help you make better decisions. But they're also like kind of data nerds, right? Like, they also believe that like data can be misleading. So one of the things that Haley, another one of the sales reps at the team, did is she kind of told this fun story about margin sales and divorce rates in Maine, and how they perfectly predicted, like, margin sales perfectly predicted or tracked divorce rates in Maine. And she tells this just kind of like fun story. And the thing that's great about this approach is that it attracts people who believe what you believe, or who like appreciate the value of data without being like overly explicit about my company, my product, my services. So the idea is that you kind of create analogies around. Another one we talked about was like election data. Like, you know, elections aren't decided on red states versus blue states. They're decided on the rural-urban divide, right? Like, when you look at data more granularly, you see different patterns emerge. So posting things like that don't say anything about your business, don't say anything about what you do, but just present a kind of like underlying value of what your company does in like a fun way or different way. And what this strategy does is that it helps attract people, like I said, that believe what you believe. And when you get people to engage on kind of fun posts about things like that, these people who liked or engaged with Haley's content are more likely to see her next post. So someone who maybe never would have liked a post about HR data might like this post. And now they're more likely to see her next post, which might be about HR data or something that is a little bit more relevant to her business. But a good rule of thumb is that for every 5 posts you do, 4 of them should not ask for anything, should not ask for someone to visit your website, should not ask for someone to like review your blog article or whatever. 4 of the posts should be explicitly adding value. And then on the 5th post, if you want to ask for something, and I don't mean like when I say ask for something, I literally just mean to like click on a link to your like blog article. But if you want to include an ask in your 5th post, you can. The idea, again, is to be like very focused on adding value, being seen as a thought leader, and attracting the people who believe what you believe, who value what you value. And then they will naturally come to you when they have questions about your area like of expertise. So one other kind of fun, or one other thing to consider posting, and again, this is kind of a similar tactic, but you can see the reach is substantial, is just posting something that's kind of relevant to everyone, right? This has nothing to do with data. It has nothing to do with anything about Haley's business. It's just a fun thing that we're all kind of going through right now. We all can resonate with it, and it gets a ton of engagement. And the idea is, again, like by getting all of this engagement, there are 167 people that are like 10 times more likely to see Haley's next post because she got them to click, I like this on this. So you want to have like a good mix of, and I would say like posts like this that are kind of just, you know, not really super relevant to anything. You know, you don't want to do that every day necessarily. Like you want to do that maybe once a week, like depends on how much you're posting. Like this isn't something that should be like a main cornerstone of your strategy, but it can go a really long way towards, like I said, getting more views of your content in the feed. Because when I come to this feed, it's customized to me. So people whose content that I interact with on this platform are more likely to show up in it. And some people who even though I'm connected to them, their content might never show up in my feed here because I've never liked one of their posts. So you want to get people engaging with your content so that your content is more likely to show up in your feed. The other way to get your content to show up in people's feed is to engage with other people's content. Posting, like I said, posting your own, if you're going to do one thing, like I would start with posting content, but like a very close second is engaging with other people's content. Because I can go, you know, say I want to get in touch with Matt. I could go like read everything about his company. I could like write every single one of my posts for a month, like directly to Matt, like without his name, but like I could just be like so intensely focused on trying to get Matt's attention through my content, but it may or may not work. The way to guarantee that I will get Matt's attention is to like or comment on his content, right? Like people post content because they want to feel seen and heard. If I go comment on Matt's post, he's like, oh, like I like Mackenzie, like Mackenzie commented on my post, right? So the number one way for me to really get Matt's attention would be to go read this article and then provide a thoughtful comment here. The other thing that does is it makes it, once I engage on Matt's content, it's more likely that my content will show up in Matt's feed. So I don't know, does that kind of make sense? Okay, I see nodding heads. Cool. So those are kind of the you know, fundamentals, I would say. You know, the main, like a couple of the main takeaways just to summarize are, you know, focus on adding value first in the content that you're sharing. Focus on don't share a blog article, share the insight or share your impression, put it right here where I can scroll through and actually read it without doing anything, right? Like I can just read this post and I don't have to go the wrong, I can just read this post and learn something rather than, you know, asking me to go click on something. I'm more likely to click on the thing if you've given me something valuable to read in my feed directly. The one other thing I'll mention is, you know, there are basically 3 kinds of posts you can do on LinkedIn. You can just do a text-based post, which is just words, but you can also do a photo or a video. Text-based posts, so posts with no photo and no video, and this is a little counterintuitive, but get the most reach by a significant amount. So if you're only going to do, you know, if you're like, I don't like doing video and I don't want to post pictures, well, you're in luck because text only posts get the most views, the most shares, they are most they're like most distributed in the LinkedIn algorithm. So that's awesome news maybe for you. But I will say, you know, if you wanted to venture into photo or video, photo I use very sparingly, like very infrequently, only if the photo is like really, really the main point. and it adds like a ton. Like for the most part, you want to just focus on text. But video is something that you may or may not want to play around with. Video does not get as good of reach as text-based posts at all, but it creates a very different kind of relationship with your audience. You know, a lot fewer people will view it, but a lot of times when I get on calls with people, they're like, "Oh, Mackenzie, I watched your video yesterday," and like people already feel like they know me by the time that I sit down to have a call with them because they've watched, you know, a couple hours of videos, like in short snips. You probably want to limit the length of videos that you share to like, shorter the better. People get bored quickly. It's just the reality of it. Like, you know, you definitely want to, I think there is a limit. Like, I don't think you can post something over 5 minutes on LinkedIn. But, you know, probably shorter and snappier is better. There's no hard rule on that, but it's just, again, it's helping people know you, understand you, and like a deeper, more intimate level. So it is valuable to do that if you're interested in doing it. All right, I'm gonna move on to the kind of third tenet of this, unless there are any questions about the types of content that you should consider sharing on LinkedIn.
Mackenzie, this is Jeff Gruber. Quick question or comment, I guess, for both. It seemed to me over the life of LinkedIn that there was more people who are participants who wanted to distinguish LinkedIn from Facebook. Facebook was kind of the social where I can talk about my dog and my family and my vacation, that kind of stuff. And then people would sometimes scold folks who posted stuff saying, "That's not LinkedIn, you know, kind of information that I want to see here." And what you're describing sounds like it's moving out of that realm of where people were trying to make a strict rule about how they used or wanted to use LinkedIn versus other social media platforms. And now it's melding more together. Am I reading that right?
Well, I mean, yes and no, because every example I showed you is very relevant to work, right? Like even this post, like, which is a little more like fun almost, like, it's not like she's talking about her family and sharing a picture of her dog, right? Like she's talking about a phenomenon that is unique to work, right? Like, it's like, I introduced my cat to my boss. This is a weird year. So it's still, I would still personally, I mean, first of all, I think it's up to you. I think the main thing is to be authentic with what you're saying and share what you feel comfortable sharing. And if somebody has a problem with that, like, I don't know, I wouldn't worry about that person. But, you know, I personally do try to err on the side of like keeping it pretty focused on professional, like work related things, but just recognizing that, you know, we're all like, I don't know, where, like, I wouldn't go to Facebook to like say, it's so weird doing Zoom calls, right? Like I do sometimes talk about just like the kind of cultural aspects of how work has changed this year. So yeah, I think it's, you know, it's a bit of a fine line maybe, but like everything that we tend to encourage people to post, it's relevant in like a kind of professional academic setting or context. But it's just being approachable with that content. It's making it easy for people to read and digest that content. Does that make sense?
That helps. No, I appreciate that. That helps. Thanks.
Yeah, and I definitely like would never post like a photo of me, and I don't know, like occasionally people maybe post like one photo of their family like for a year, right? Like I think if you wanted to say like I'm happy to be with my family on Thanksgiving or whatever, like, I don't know. I think that that's probably appropriate if you do it once a year, but like, it's not, this is not your platform to share, yeah, your photos of your dog and your new grandchild and your sisters, brothers, whatever. Yeah. So yeah, I think it is being blurred a tiny bit, but you know, keeping it like, okay, here's actually how I think about it. Think about what you would talk to someone about at, like, say you went to a conference and it's like happy hour at the end of the conference. What types of things would you share in that context? I think that's kind of like maybe a good way to draw the line. It's like, it's professional, but it's a little more casual, right? Than if you were actually speaking at the event. And you're always going to see people who take it, you know, to one extreme or the other, but that's, I don't know. I personally wouldn't advocate for going too far in the Facebook realm. It's also, you know, obviously I'm talking a lot about LinkedIn today. LinkedIn is the most effective platform for B2B sales. If your customer is, you know, like another business and you want to like sell something to another business, this is obviously where you would go. But if you're trying to sell something direct to consumer, this is probably like not the right place to be, right? Like the right place to be is Instagram or Facebook or somewhere else. This is the place to be if you are selling to businesses, or if your product is like super specific to, you know, work related things, like you're selling lights for people's laptops, like for Zoom calls or something, right? Like you might get some traction on here for that. Okay. The last kind of tenet. So, you know, we talked about it a little bit about posting. We've talked a little bit about engaging on other people's posts. The last thing I want to mention is your audience. So I think a lot of people think that their audience just kind of happens. But if you are very passive about, you know, who you're connected to on LinkedIn, you are probably connected to colleagues, people you've done business with already, you know, friends from life and college and whatever, but you're probably not connected with a huge network of potential buyers. So it's important to do that. If you're going to invest time in putting content out here, you should be proactively going and finding and connecting with potential buyers. And there's a couple of ways to do this, obviously. I'm just going to show you, I don't work for LinkedIn or anything, but if you have Sales Navigator and you do pay for LinkedIn as a service, you have this option to go into Sales Navigator and curate lists of particular buyers. And so that can be really helpful for identifying who it is that you want to add to your network. If you don't have LinkedIn Sales Navigator, you can just search for people and add them directly through the site. I think, you know, the value of it depends on how much you're going to use it. But what you can do in here is create a custom search. And, you know, like, basically the idea is that if you know that you are selling to people in a particular industry or a particular geography, you can come in here and just find, like, let's say I want to sell to IT companies. I can come in here, select information technology services. I can say I only want to talk to owners or VPs or whatever it is. I'm just like making this up right now, obviously, but I'm just trying to give you a sense of like, there are all of these filters that can help you narrow down, you know, what it is that, who it is you want to talk to. And then you can even search for particular companies. You can search for a particular company size. Sorry, particular company size, whatever. And then you can run a search. And you get a ton of people who are in your ICP, like who are a part of your specific customer profile that you want to be targeting or reaching. And there's a couple of things you can do with this then. Typically what we, you know, assuming you're using LinkedIn as a tool for selling purposes, what I would often do is just go through this list and hit connect. And I wouldn't say anything to this person. I would just go through and hit connect. And you're gonna, like, in general, 60 to 70% of people are just gonna accept your connection request. Especially, I know there are a lot of CEOs, owners, leaders in this group. Like, a lot of people are just gonna accept your profile request or your invitation request, especially if you have a clear photo and a, you know, even remotely interesting headline. People are just gonna hit accept. And what you've just done is you don't have to even go say anything to these people right away, right? But what you've done is, if you're consistently posting content, you are now consistently like have the opportunity to get in front of these potential buyers at a much higher rate than you ever would have before. And again, when we think back to the kind of posting strategy where you're sharing information that attracts people who believe what you believe, the idea being that you are like the right people. If you go connect with 100 people every day, eventually like you're going to start connecting with people who believe what you believe, who are looking for the things that you're looking for. And this has a drastic impact in terms of shortening the sales cycle. A lot of times when people reach out to you and say, hey, like, you know, I've been following your post for a while now. You know, I'm not really sure, but I think maybe I need this. Like, could you tell me a little more about this? What they've really just said is, I've been thinking about this for a long time. I already know I need your services and I need your help. Like, can you just like nudge me across the finish line to like helping me realize why it's so important that I have this right now? I already believe it. I just want you to validate it, right? So it's a very, very powerful strategy. If you are doing all of these things in tandem, if you are proactively curating a network of people who are, you know, potentially interested in buying your services, if you are providing value-added content and consistently showing up and engaging with other people on the platform, you are creating an engine that will continue to provide benefits for a long time. So that's kind of the gist of this. I guess the only other one thing I realized I forgot to mention is that when you post something, so two things actually. When you post something, you want one thing you can do is you can quickly feature it. So I posted this post, there's 3 dots in the corner up here and you can hit feature at the top of your profile. A lot of times I feature it as soon as I post it, just because if someone does end up going to my profile, you know, this will be the first thing that they see probably. So until I know like how much, you know, like, and then you can remove them and change this order around all you want. I try to make this a pretty dynamic area where it's not just like static, like here are 4 photos of my business. Like, you know, I think a good mix again of like maybe one thing that's kind of promotional, but then other things that are just pure value added to the people who you're trying to reach. So I try to make this kind of dynamic. So that's one thing. But the other thing is when you post something, in the first hour after you post it, LinkedIn is going to make a determination about how valuable the content is that you've shared and how many people they should show it to. So you want to think a little bit about what times you post, typically outside of, depending on who you're trying to talk to, but for the most part, posting outside of business hours is actually better. So like before 8 a.m. Or after 5 p.m. on weekdays, in particular, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday tend to be like the highest traffic days on the site. But also sometimes because a lot fewer people produce content on like Saturdays and Sundays, sometimes posts that are posted on Saturdays or Sundays can do really well as well. In general, there's just like this huge content deficit on LinkedIn. Less than 2% of people post content on a weekly basis. So it is a really easy bar. Like if you just post once or twice a week, you are going to be one of the top content producers on this site, and you can quickly grow an audience and following here. That won't be the case forever. People are starting to catch on to this. So it's definitely something to invest some time in now if you think you ever want to invest time in it. Sorry, and then the last thing is, so because LinkedIn is making a determination in the first hour after you post something, how valuable it is, basically what that means is they're looking at how many people like and comment on your post in the first hour after you've posted it. So the recommendation here being that anyone who posts or comments on your post within the first hour, you should get back to them right away. Anyone who posts on my posts after, like, 2 hours after I posted it, I probably still get back to them because it shows that you're responsive and engaged here, right? Like why would I keep commenting on your stuff if you never get back to me? But I'm not quite as like strict about like getting back to them right away because, the thing that happens is in that first hour, like a lot more comments will accumulate if you're responding back to people right away. So I don't mean that you have to be like absolutely glued to your computer or anything, but like maybe post something and then like 45 minutes later, just go check on the post real quick, maybe respond to a comment or two, and then go on with your day. So yeah, that's another thing to think about.
Oh, Mackenzie, I'm just going to do this really quick, which is I know that we're running over time right now. If people need to go, please don't feel bad. I'm letting this run a little later because we started later. So Mackenzie, please keep going. But if people do have to go, we understand. And I apologize for getting started late. Go ahead.
Oh yeah, that's great. And no, I think I'm probably just about done unless I can help answer any questions for anyone.
You mentioned responding to comments, and I noticed that you had tagged somebody in one of those comments. Do you find that is helpful or not helpful, or does it?
Yeah, so first of all, I would only ever tag someone if it is highly relevant to them and not in any way spammy. Like if you're tagging someone who like is gonna look at that and be like, I don't know this guy and like, why is he bothering me? Like you're probably just gonna irritate people. This is my college roommate and friend. And so I just, and she's a psychology major and I thought she would find it interesting. So I'm obviously not very nervous about tagging my college roommate. She's not gonna get mad at me, right? But I will say there are some really effective plays or strategies for tagging particular people. And I'll show you one really quickly, which is that I was trying to get in touch with this person at a company and I had sent him a couple of emails and called him. And like I had tried to get in touch with this guy like a few different ways. And what I did is, and it's, still on brand and still like relevant to what I was doing, but I obviously help coach people on social media strategies. So I talk a lot about social media strategies on LinkedIn. And so, I just posed this question to my network, like who has the best about section and why? And then I tagged a couple of the people that I thought that I know who I think do a really good job at it. But I also went to a list of prospects that I was trying to get in touch with and clicked through all of their profiles. And one of like 100 of them had like a decent profile. And so I tagged him and I was like, I also really like Bo Brooks's. He tells a story about his cover photo, blah, blah, blah. Never talked to this guy in my life. He's ignored a bunch of my messages. And not only did he get back to me here, but he also finally responded to my my other messages, like private messages, and we ended up setting up a meeting. So if you're like, again, authentic and genuine first, like I never would have tagged someone if they didn't actually have a good profile, right? But you can use it strategically and sparingly to get attention of people that you're, working hard at. Like just as long as it's not like, if this guy like didn't have an about section or something, that probably wouldn't have landed as well.
Okay, thank you.
Mackenzie, I have a question. This is Ed. You mentioned that LinkedIn makes a decision about the post in the first hour. And then you also said it helps if you maybe post after hours or on the weekends, but then there are fewer people that are looking at that. So you would get fewer responses. So I'm curious as to how does LinkedIn evaluate posts? And if it is on the number of responses, then it would lead me to believe you want to post while other people are already on the site, as opposed to on a weekend.
Yeah, so that's it. So yes, that's exactly right. You do, if for example, like, and you can tell obviously if there's a green dot here, if you know that your particular buyers tend to be on LinkedIn at this time, that is exactly when you want to post. That's also, if you are gonna send a direct message, if you send it when people are online, they are way more likely to respond to it. The thing is that like a lot of people, and maybe this is changing. I would just encourage you to kind of continually evaluate it through the various metrics that LinkedIn gives you. But like a lot of people like are more likely to be passively scrolling through LinkedIn like over breakfast or when they're watching TV at night, rather than like in the middle of the workday, because in the middle of the workday, people are in meetings and hopefully doing work. So with the exception of like, so industries like HR or like recruiters or people, there are people who just spend all day on LinkedIn, right? And those people are obviously on LinkedIn in like more so during working hours. And then after work, they're like, no way am I going on LinkedIn. But a lot of times like CEOs, decision makers, like they're in meetings and working all day, like they're not hanging out on LinkedIn during the workday. And so they're more likely actually to be online after hours or before work. Like they wake up and, you know, in the morning, like they just like scroll through their feed for a few minutes kind of passively. So that's why, you know, posting in the morning or evening can work better. In particular, like, and there's no perfect rule for it, honestly, like in terms of time to post. Like I think it's just something to play around with, and every once in a while I get surprised. Like every once in a while I'm like, oh, I rarely get a lot of engagement on Friday nights, but today I got like a ton. So it can feel a little random sometimes. But yeah, does that kind of make sense?
Yeah, thanks.
Great. So Mackenzie, thank you so much. This was super helpful. Oddly, I actually had a meeting this morning, which one of the guys at the meeting was talking a lot about Sales Navigator and how much it helps him in terms of focusing in really truly on the people that he wants to try to connect with. So that was really good to get kind of a reiteration of that. It's left me with a lot of thoughts about what to do with my own profile. And I think one of the things that is sticking with me the most, honestly, Mackenzie, is very similar to what people say about marketing, which is oftentimes we pick things that we like because we like how they look, we like the color they are, we like what they represent. But marketing is not about us. It is about who we're trying to attract. And I feel like your message today was reiterating that. This is not about what you like and what you're trying to do and what you know, what things are in the world for you. It's about who you're trying to attract. What do they like? What is the value to them? What are they looking for? So that was super helpful. I feel like I took a lot of great notes, and thank you for getting through the confusion of this morning. Appreciate it.
Yeah, my absolute pleasure. And I'll just say, you know, we're, I think there's 4 spots left maybe, but my company has been running a special, and we've just been doing free 30-minute LinkedIn audits that are like specific to your profile and industry. So if anybody does want to set up a quick meeting with me, then, you know, just send me a message on LinkedIn and I would be happy to do that.
Excellent. I tried to connect with you already because I pulled up your LinkedIn. So I would love to do that. And we are recording this, so this will be on the TAN site as well, and we'll have the information out from the chat. So again, Mackenzie, thank you so much. That was incredibly valuable. And thank you everybody for coming. And just wanted to let people go because I know we did kind of go over, and thank you for being patient with me around that. So thank you everybody.